otherwise. Hello. First things first, Andrew the stenographer. I am so sorry. Try and keep up. I'm sorry for that as well. A is for angular, the reason we're here. There's quite a lot to it, not all of it clear. What I'm going to attempt is poetic oration of angular aspects that cause consternation. A few things have changed since the last time I spoke, but not quite so much. What I wrote is revoked. There's still much to say, so I haven't much time, but I've got 26 letters to get through in rhyme. B is for browser, for which we all build. There isn't just one. We may need polyfills, and I know this is something that causes us pain. Why do we do this? What's the ultimate gain? We test different systems as much as we're able, so as not to exclude anyone from our table. C is for core, where we find content child, compiler as well, which each module provides. Common we need, as the name might suggest, and component fixture with which we write tests. D is for decorators. What are they for? They make classes and methods and properties do more. How do we add such syntactical sweetness? They're just functions that bring some grammatical neatness. D is also for loading our apps differentially. The more modern browsers will load preferentially bundles with sizes that weigh so much less. How it's all done, I don't know, I confess. E is for elements, exciting and new portable Angular components for you. Not only easier to load on the fly, but standards compliant. They're consumable by the other big frameworks, even plain JavaScript. They'll be fun getting future big projects to shipped. F is for formats and factories and forms, driven by templates, or is reactive the norm. This is one of those areas where preference feels muddled, and it seems like it could leave developers troubled. Each approach has their pluses, neither is lesser, but it's worth looking up control value accessor. Under G, we find guards and some methods that get from protecting our roots to locale date format. The methods are more or less simple enough, but explaining the router and guards will be tough. With the time rushing onward, I won't even try. If I have to use more sketchy rhymes, I might cry. H is for HTTP on our host. Hypertext transport is something that most of the devs in this room will probably get, but you may not have used the host decorator yet. It tells the indexer just where it should cease as it tries to acquire what it needs piece by piece. I is for Ivy, or render a 3, simpler and faster and small as a flea, or that's the intention. It's not quite yet done, but it's out there to try if you want to have fun. After Angular 9, getting near, so it's said, what feature will gain all the focus instead? J brings us on to JIT compiler factory, about which the docs are quite unsatisfactory. There's JSON pipe 2, which I'm sure we've all used, but as it's impure, it should not be abused. It's great for debugging, seeing under the skin of the components we write and the properties within. K is for key values, using the map for detecting the changes throughout our app. This has left many devs feeling hopelessly wrecked as they look up expression changed after it has been checked. L is location, the way we might tell the parts of our app from each URL. The strategy used changes how the address of our pages will look and whether the mess with its readable straightforward slashes and slugs will instead of all that be just hashes and bugs. M is for modules and messages and mocks. While module is one of the main building blocks, the message bus may not be something you found. It sends data between the UI and background. Well, the webbook of code isn't perfect just yet. Its importance will grow in the future, I bet. Navigation is next in the no-error schema of course, all the classes beginning NG star. Who'd have thought that the devs of modern creation would succumb to the need for Hungarian notation? Onwards to O for on init, on destroy, the decorator's optional and output. Oh joy, there's nothing that seems unfamiliar here, just parts of the system we hold near and dear. P is for plural, a curious thing. If you look up the rules for outputting strings, the Unicode CLDR has the specs for the locales your users might reasonably expect. I don't recommend it for a light bedtime read, but for localization, it's a doc you should heed. Q is for querying. All of the things we can query with types or query with strings, we can query the content, query the view, and be sure we update it if anything new. To observe all the things, we need RxJS, and there's more to this lib than some docs might suggest. If you're struggling with state and try NGRX, you'll learn more of its breadth and at first be perplexed how you ever could limit yourself to subscriptions that ended with only a single emission. With S, we might like to consider schematics. For workflow improvements, they could be dramatic, but only if what we are hoping to gain is a better approach to the code we maintain. Pragmatically, projects that stay fairly small may not have a need for schematics at all. T is for TypeScript. Not as hard as you thought, although lately it seems there's a war being fought between those of us pleased with our explicit typing and others who seem to be constantly sniping that JavaScript really was made to be free, and guessing what everything does is the key. U brings the upgrade module into sight, and I honestly can't recommend that you fight with the hybridization of Angular apps. Separate them by root, don't fall into the traps of thinking that as this is something we could, that means it is one of the things that we should. V brings us round to view child and view children, view content RF and view encapsulation. I really can't fit into here what they do, but note the distinction between content and view. There's a DOM for the things that we view on the screen, and another for content that sets up the scenes. W brings us to classes that look as though they all start with the phrase, what the The intent here is not just to make you all smirk. WTF stands for Web Tracing Framework. If performance is key, this may be what you're using, but for everyone else, we see code that's amusing. X is for XHR Factory, and well, what else is there under this letter to tell? They've wrapped XML HTTP requests. It's one of the things that allows us to test. Y is for you, all the people here seated who wrestle with code and remain undefeated. Community is something that makes us all better, and frankly, there's nothing that starts with this letter. Z is for zones, about which all I'll say is I'm hoping we no longer need them one day, and that little thought is the last thing I'll mention. I'm grateful you lasted the course, paid attention. I've rushed through a lot in a very short time, and I think now I've used all my Angular rhymes. Thank you.